Welcome to the Winning in Business podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Rissy, and I love talking to business professionals, leaders, and entrepreneurs who are winning in business. Are you ready to reach your next level of success? If so, join us on the Winning in Business podcast as I interview entrepreneurs, business professionals, and leaders who share how they've risen to success. Before we begin, go ahead, hit subscribe and the notification button so you'll be notified each time a new episode is released. Plug in and settle in. You're about to be inspired to rise up to your next level of success. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Winning in Business. This is your host, Kelly Rissy. And today I am here with guest Alison Niermann. And welcome, Alison.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So let me tell y'all a little bit about Alison. So Alison is the CEO of Tilley Workforce Solutions, and she has over 20 years of translating business vision into people strategy, pioneering recruitment marketing, and leading workforce solutions. She has served in leadership roles for industries spanning healthcare, education, and global public semiconductor manufacturing. In the community, she has served as a board member with the Girl Scouts of Missouri Heartland, TechStL Advisory Council Member, and founded YouthLed, Inc. She's on the executive board with St. Louis Filmworks, the Executive PTO Vice President, and a mentor with Women's Unlimited. Alison is also a speaker, writer, and podcast host. I'm sure we'll hear more about that. And she started Tilley Workforce Solutions to help elevate the personal and business success of others. So Alison, I'm so excited to have you on the show. We probably met, 3 months ago, maybe 2 months ago?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe about three to 6 months ago.
Yeah. And I feel like we just had a great connection. And then in the meantime, we learned that who knew our kids actually knew each other. And then here you are on my podcast.
Yeah, I know. And they work together, apparently. Yeah. That's great.
So
small world. Great
Yes,
connection.
it is,
small
for
world.
sure. So, okay. So let's get started. So tell everybody, I love hearing what you do and kind of why you started your business, but how did you get into doing what you do? How did you get into starting your business?
Yeah. So Tilley Workforce Solutions, we focus on placing professional to executive level HR and marketing leaders inside corporations throughout the United States. And we also do a lot of workforce planning. So I started my business just out of a passion for it and just sort of like a raw talent for it, I guess. I have 20 years experience doing it corporate. And I had a lot of friends in the industry at other corporations saying, I really wish I could use you and your skill set, but you're busy doing it for someone else. So after hearing that over and over and just that spark inside of me that just would not die to launch and go on my own, I finally, about 2 years ago, started our company.
Oh, that's fabulous. And for you, like going from corporate into starting your own company, like how was that for you?
Yeah. So first of all, I did it during COVID, little slow. And then like, truth be told, the month after I started it, my husband actually had a massive heart attack. So he's fine. Everything's fine. He's thriving and like doing better than ever. But that took a minute to sort of adjust the mindset. So it took me about a year and a half of being everything for everyone. Coming from an HR background, I was like, sure, we can write policy. We can do that. We can redo your entire handbook. So it sort of took me a minute to learn the necessity of really niching down and just like focusing on a few good things, because you can't be everything to everybody, and do it well. So it took me a minute to adjust. And once I did, the growth and I guess opportunities just sort of more easily presented themselves to us.
Yeah. So for you, what did you feel like were the biggest challenges from going from corporate into owning your business?
Yeah, I think The first thing is that, you're on your own in the beginning. I mean, I have teams in line now and we have great partners, but sort of that mindset of, you're responsible for it all. And getting into that mindset, right? That growth mindset. I know you and I have talked about this a lot.
Yes. Yep.
That growth mindset and sort of eliminating the voices of doubt in your mind that have maybe been planted most likely by everyone else, right? Like, I don't think we're born with this mindset of you can't do it, that comes externally. So just silencing all of that and really remembering where to focus. Like I said, I mean, I think there are some amazing thought leaders out there, that talk about, what you focus on is what grows.
Yes.
And it's sort of like the analogy of the skier, right? So if a skier's going through the trees thinking, don't run into a tree, don't run into a tree, they're going to hit a tree. But if they're sitting there thinking, follow the path, then that's what they'll see. So what you focus on is what grows. And so I think once I sort of, change that mindset of this is your purpose, you are capable of doing it. So focus on what you want to see come to fruition. Once that mindset changed, that just really opened up, I think, everything for me.
Yeah, that's fabulous. All right. So I'm curious, what are some of the big ahas that you want to share with my audience that have contributed to your success? And, that could be the success of your current business right now, or even just like what the success that has led you to where you are today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think some of the biggest aha moments were, first of all, that you belong, and that you are capable, and that the talents that are planted inside of you are there for a reason, and that there is an audience for them and a need for them. That's one. The second thing I think that really helped, me grow into the person I am and the leader that I am today is to realize that, like, before you're going to be confident in any situation, first you have to be vulnerable, and then courage comes, and then the confidence. And so you just really have to put yourself out there in new situations, and just be really vulnerable and open and really authentic. I think we're coached so much that, you have to be like that person or that leader, or, you have to be like everybody else. And that's the box that you have to fit in. And while some of that is true, right, the language inside certain rooms has to be spoken and the behaviors have to be, exhibited. But for the most part, like, people are looking for who you are and they want you to show up. And I think once people realize who you are, they depend upon that. In my personal life too, I really realized that, again, like after my husband's heart attack, all of the people in our life showed up true to who they were. So the type A person showed up ready to make a meal plan, the comforter, the nurturer, the prayer, like all of the people showed up, and I learned like that I depended upon them to be who they were. So if that's true about them, then that's true about me. People know what to expect from me, and it's going to be funny, but also very strategic, trustworthy, honest, hardworking, driven, enthusiastic. And so if you remember that about yourself, like, own it, and I think those are some of the really key things. And then I think from a business standpoint, some of those aha moments were really, just because you can do everything doesn't mean that you should be doing everything in your business. And so you really have to identify what you really want to do and what you want to do well and what you can do well, and then kind of let go of the rest. The resources, believe it or not, will find a way. And just pairing together that team to grow your company forward in its vision. I think those were some of the biggest ahas in my personal and business growth.
Yeah, I feel like the whole delegating piece for business owners, especially new business owners, is difficult. You know what I mean? You feel like number one, that it's your baby, right? The business is your baby. So you want to do everything. You want to make sure it's done well, everything like that. And then it's difficult to delegate. And then at some point, you, like you said, you have to let go, because if not, you're doing things, even if you like them, you're doing things that somebody else could do better, could do faster, could do easier, could do whatever, while you're literally in your superpower. You know what I mean? Because just because we can do some things well, we might also be able to do things over here a whole lot better that can take the company even further.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's new ideas, that's not, my wheelhouse is finding people, recruiting people, doing workforce planning so that it aligns with the people. Just because I can do marketing doesn't mean I have the time or the space to do all of the research that comes. I mean, these people are at the front of what they do well.
Yes.
And same with an accounting. Just because I can doesn't mean that I should. And so I think that really is sort of a shift. Like once you let it go, like you said, it's going to be a much faster and more successful situation in the end. Yeah.
And I also feel like as business owners, and I heard this in a book, and I wish I could remember which one. I referenced it in another one of my podcasts, but I heard, one of the biggest things that we should do as business owners is be employing other people. So you're employing someone to do your social media, your bookkeeping, you know what I mean? You then are spreading the wealth as well.
Oh yeah. And because they too have a talent that's meant to be out there in the world, and so if that's what you believe as a business owner, then you should also live that out as a business owner. Yeah.
Yes. Now for you, let's go back to I love the vulnerable courage, which leads into confidence, right? And I know we talked about that for sure, that, you have to be vulnerable enough, and then you have to have the courage to actually do it so that you can build confidence, because it's the courage that builds the confidence. So how have you been able to be vulnerable, like to continue to be vulnerable when you're meeting new people in new spaces? How are you successful with that?
Yeah. Well, so at first I met with some people that had done it well before, had great networks, and I had a very honest conversation with them. I'm like, how did you just show up like that? And they were like, just fake it till you make it. Like, of all people to be told that, like, I have a former side life in acting. So they're like, act the part. I mean, you've been on stage, you've been in film, act the part, act it, just show up and be vulnerable. And also know that, like, most people in that space, whether you're showing up for a breakfast, a conference, a meeting, whatever, they too have had a first time in the room. And I think if you just lead with that, and your true personality, it becomes easier, and in some situations, you're going to have all of those feelings within the first moment. You're going to go vulnerable, courage. I mean, it's going to happen real quick. Others, it's going to take some time. We had an event a few weeks ago, our company did, and it was like,
share about the event.
Yeah, it was amazing. So it was called The Path Forward. And we had 3 amazing women, like general counsel of a global tech company and a global head of a pharmaceutical company and an international bestseller. And, I just put it out there because I really want people to learn from one another. I think it's important, especially for women, to empower one another, show up for one another, and just like you're doing, like teach others how to overcome obstacles, and the authenticity of those women was really interesting. But for me, like, I was the moderator, I was the host, not something I have done in a while, especially because of COVID. And so I went in kind of a nervous wreck, but once it started, once I was vulnerable enough to to produce this, and just be myself, that quickly faded into, and in the courage, and I think courage comes from the experiences that you've already had in life. You're not just walking into courage one day and waking up one day and like, oh, I'm courageous. No, that's from all of the life experiences that you've had. That's what builds courage. And then as soon as, that kind of comes, that just melts away into confidence. And that's why I was saying, like, I experienced all of that within like 30 minutes. It was like a boom, 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 and then that makes you ready and better established for the next experience,
Yes. And 100% to draw on those experiences. I think the biggest thing is getting people to go back and remember all the things that required them to have courage, because it's interesting how we forget. Like, we forget the amazing things that we've done in our life, and maybe some not so fabulous things that we've done in our life that still required a whole lot of courage. You know what I mean? And we're like, I don't know, when was the last time I used courage? Well, if you really stop and look back all through your life, you know what I mean? We're using it all the time. And like you said, being able to go back and recognize that and use it to bring into the experience that you're in right there.
You've been there before. I think it's interesting. Just sort of another mind shift change was that, the same, I guess, neurons or chemistries that fires up when you tell yourself that you're afraid, or nervous. It's the same exact chemistry as I'm excited.
Yes.
So if you change your language, change your internal narrative, from saying, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous, I'm so scared, to I'm excited and I am ready.
Yes.
If you just, as soon as I change that, it's a whole different ballgame. And I think that's so important for people to remember. Like, just change your own narrative. You're in charge of your narrative and your journey and your outcomes. So change it.
Yes. I was just speaking with a client, and we were talking about energy and worry. And same thing. It takes the same amount of energy to worry than it does to change the script in your mind. And it make, like, if you're worrying about the outcome that it's going to be this way, we write the negative narrative, right? That's typically how we're wired in general, is we'll write the what if negative. It takes the same amount of energy to write the what if positive. Like, we don't know what's going to happen right now. We don't know. Either could happen. So let's focus on this one, because it takes just as much energy to focus on the positive one as it does the negative one. And that's a whole lot better of thinking about the positive one.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the saying of the, like, what if or so what?
Yes.
Like, so what? If that happens, so what?
Right.
You'll probably be prepared for it. So what? Right. And it's that whole, what can you control? The circles of control. You can control yourself, your actions, but outside of that, how people receive you, how people respond, that's a lot of things you can't control, so it's kind of that what if or so what, and focus on what you can control. Yeah.
What, moving forward for you then, as a business owner who's been in business since 2020, what are your goals? What are your goals for your business, for you?
Yeah.
What's out there for you?
That's such a great question, and something that's so important for business leaders. And even if you're in your own internal growth, like, it's so important to remember that if you're not planning your own career path or your own business path, somebody will do it for you, and it will be to serve them, not you or your talents. So for our company, we're just gearing up to hit our first, hopefully, $1 million in revenue here. That's a big goal of ours. And then to just staff up more and just to continue to serve companies. We have a really deep heart for the person behind the paper. It's not just a resume, there's a story behind that. And I really, truly believe in identifying talents and making sure that they're in the right role, and that companies that they have the right role and the right people in those roles to bring value to the company, not just fulfill a job and grind it out, but to really bring value. Because when people work together, and honor each other's, the value that they bring, then businesses move a lot faster, and they have a lot more success and a much greater impact. So, and, our goal is just to continue to provide those services, and be sort of that servant leader to everyone that we serve, and do it more nationwide. And hit our revenue goals, and then keep going. And then, on a personal front, I'm contributing to a book this year. So just sort of focused on how, to make that the best possible, or just the most, whatever it needs to be, I want it to be. And then just, continue to speak and empower others, to just sort of continue to live out their own, path, as I call it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Back to what you just said about really like getting people in the right positions.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, from what I hear, feel like that's kind of a problem right now. Is that a nice way to put it?
That's a truthful way to put it, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think out of the, they call it the Great Resignation. I don't think it was that. I think it was a great enlightenment, right? So like people realized that I am valuable. I have talents, and also what I want out of life is equally important. And a lot of people are looking not only towards that job, but that the vision, mission, values of an organization really align with what they want to be doing and who they are. And so, that's one aspect of it. But the other aspect of it is that, there are a lot of companies that are either struggling or scaling. I mean, that's sort of what's happening right now. Those who are scaling rapidly. And in doing so, they're sort of like, well, I think we need this, and I think we need that. And they really need to assess, like, okay, what are the success factors in that role? What's the purpose of the role? In a year, what will that role need to look like? What will it have needed to accomplish, in that year that's moving our business forward? So I think people really need to take a look at those roles to say, like, what's the point of this role? Like, what is it here for? And what will make somebody really successful in that role? And not just like they can do Excel, they know this CRM, but like, what are those soft skills that really put that person in that position to really be successful, not only in the role, but meet the goals, but be, of value to the organization and contribute to the culture? Because ultimately, people make or break a company, and a culture is only so good as the people. So, I think that organizations, really can assess really carefully, like those success factors, and then identifiers in order to like move forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
When you talk about the enlightenment, one of the things that I noticed from my point of view is that going through the pandemic, I would say the one benefit that people saw was that, oh, I can actually slow down. Maybe I should actually slow down. Maybe my kids don't need to be off playing sports, not only 7 days a week, but like 2-3 sports at a time, 7 days a week. You know what I mean? Like we can, like, family time is actually okay at home with all of us together. That's what I saw, and people were like, like I can breathe again, and this is nice, and kind of getting back into that relaxation mode a little bit. Now, yes, there were different stressors. Like the pandemic brought on a whole different set of stressors than the go, busy, busy, busy. And I feel like it's interesting to see then what will be the uptick of it, because now we're seeing people get back into everything. Right. And now they had the downtime, they had kind of that time at home with family. And will it go back to the fast-paced rat race that it used to be? Or have we learned a little bit? You know what I mean? Like, do we feel like now we can be like, oh, okay, like maybe we can find some balance that could serve all of us better to find balance?
So we're not all stressed out. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I think it's interesting too, because so and I would love to do a generational study sometimes, but if you study the generations coming into the workforce, or that are, early 30s, late 20s, they know what they want, and it's
Yes.
balance.
And it's not to be like their parents or their
Oh yeah, no, they're like, okay, well, actually, I do want to take my PTO and go to Norway.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? And it's a really interesting mindset because they are asking for it. And when they become managers, I really hope that there's a shift in that balance. You know, I was just talking to somebody about this, and she's foreign born. And she was actually born in India and lives here. And she, has traveled the world with her job. And so she really takes careful, sort of consideration and just observation of the other cultures. So many other countries have a good balance, they figured it out, and so I hope that between the upcoming generation and like learning from the pandemic, that we can all sort of remember that our job isn't everything. It's a part of what we do. It isn't who we are. And it really shouldn't define or control the way that we spend our time. Because at the end of the day, like, we have other things outside of it.
Right. Yes.
Although you and I are pretty passionate about our work. So I think it does overlap with who we are, because it is our DNA to like serve people and see the best in other people. And I think that that's maybe sometimes, outside of the norm a little bit, but like, I think it's important. I do think people will start. Now, having said that, we don't have a free weekend till I think August, but, but that's we did that. And that's also a season. Like, I think people are really, careful about realizing like there are seasons in life,
For sure. Yes. Agree. For sure. And I look back at the busyness of the season, when my kids were playing sports and we were doing stuff every weekend, and it was a season. And I think the biggest thing for me that I am grateful for is that I have learned how to manage busy seasons. Because the biggest thing that I see, and this is, I don't know if you see this in your, but now it'll be different for you in your business. Okay. However, we'll see if you see something like this. So the biggest thing for me is, well, I don't have time for a stress coach right now. I have way too much going on. Right. So that's the whole thing. And I'm like, well, maybe if you had one now, it could actually help you know how to deal with it, have some strategies under your belt so that you don't get burnt out. You know what I mean? So, I don't have time for that right now. And I'm like, okay, well, that's when you need it the most. And I don't see that sometimes in your business of when you're going in, I don't need help with this. And when they really do, they're like, we need to get through this first before we can bring you in. When you're like, well, if you brought me in first, it could take care of some of the other problems. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we actually do a lot of workforce planning. That's why we didn't give that up. I gave a lot of our HR consulting part up because I just want to be really beneficial and do a few things really well for the people that we serve. But the workforce planning, I will not let go of, because I found that it's really important that people know what they need. They need that blueprint. You can't just go build a house without the blueprint to get there. And so I still think that piece is really important, to your point. Like, if they think about it, if they plan for it a little better, then the right people will be in place, and then they won't sit back frustrated that the goals aren't being met and everybody's mad and stressed out and, So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And from a business owner standpoint too, to your point about a stress coach, like, that's something I've been very, I guess not focused on, but just really more aware of this year is, I'm like, okay, I do need to join like a women's growth, I joined a women's growth collab, and, I'm in these different, sort of networks that continue to support and challenge and hold accountable, but yet move forward. I think that's really important that you line those up now, for the future or whenever you need it. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I love that.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. What accomplishment are you really proud of that you'd like to share?
Wow. Well, I guess just opening this business, there's that. And I always like to tell the fun story because, It's completely unrelated to my business, but I just think it's so fun. So a few years ago, well, I guess it's been like 9 years now. I was in the movie Gone Girl. So I got to act and play and hang out with Ben Affleck and the whole cast and crew for 3 months. The reason why it's just a good story to tell and something that I'm proud of is because it did take me through that vulnerability, courage, and confidence really quickly. So because I have always had the heart for acting and film and storytelling, we happened to live down in Cape Girardeau at the time when the film was being produced. And I picked up the phone. I was consulting on the side. I was doing it with a friend of mine who luckily was like, yeah, go chase that dream. And there was a flyer and a phone number on it of the casting director. I thought it was just a general phone number. I didn't know. But I was in theater at the time. The girl's like, you should just call that number. So I did. And the person on the other line, come to find out, was the casting director. But I literally said to them like, hey, I've been on set. I had been in movies before. So I was like, I've been on set. I know how to behave on set. I know how to take directions. I might be one of the only, I'm local, and saying all this fluffy stuff, like I might be the only one that can know how to behave. And I don't know. I was like, so I want to be in your movie. And I was like, so what do I do? And I said, I just really want to play in your movie. I use that word. I just want to play on set. And I said, but I don't want to be an extra. I've been there, done that. I didn't want to do that. It's kind of wasn't worth my time at the point. And so I said, what do I do? And he said, this is the casting director, right? Which I had no idea. And so I said, of course, yeah, that's why I'm calling you. And he said, we have a local casting person there. Skip the line. There's 5,000 people in line. Skip the line and have a conversation with her. And so I did. And they made me a stand-in, which I had no idea. They called like within 48 hours and they were like, do you know what a stand-in is? And I was like, absolutely. And I was at Six Flags at the time with my kids. It was like a Sunday. And on a napkin was like stand-in ? Like, I was like, and I'm like writing on my arm, and they're like, this person from LA is going to call from wardrobe. They'll need your measurements. You'll have to go in and get a fitting. Hair and makeup will be calling next. Anyways, long story short, like I was able to be a stand-in for 3 months and like learn and just have that amazing different experience than I would ever have before. And while on that set, they gave me a speaking part just because they needed somebody that could talk. I don't know. They were like, Alison, go do this. Alison, go do that. And then my kids got to be in it because they were short a few kids in a scene. And so it was just a really great experience that I had that, so when you chime up, fire up that courage. It's like you have been there. You have put yourself out there to ask for what you wanted, and I kind of went at it there was like no insight for me like that. I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to be in that movie and I want to go after it. And I did. So I was really proud of that too. And then like fast forward to this, business, I've been just really proud of like, I knew that I should open it probably long before I did. And then now that I have opened it, just like the feedback and the fulfillment that has come out of it that I've given not only, myself and our team, but those that we serve. So yeah, so those are two, crazy examples.
Well, congratulations. If you are listening to the podcast, you need to go over to YouTube and or to LinkedIn so that you can, so you need to know what Alison looks like so that you can then find her, go watch the movie and find her in the movie.
Oh gosh.
That you can see her.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. If you are listening to this podcast, you need to go over to YouTube, Winning in Business, and you need to watch YouTube so that you can see what Alison looks like, or go to LinkedIn and find her so that then you can go back and watch Gone Girl and see her in the movie. So I think that is so exciting. And I love the way that you brought back around just the courage that you called and you expected a yes, you expected to be in it and it worked out for you. And I think that is such a lesson for all of us that it's the whole Wayne Gretzky thing, right? Yeah. You will never make 100% of the shots you don't take. Right. So you have to ask, we just need to have the courage to go ask and see what happens from there. So I think that's fabulous.
The worst they can say is no.
Right, exactly. And always
It doesn't
expect the
hurt.
yes.
Yeah.
And always expect the yes, though, right? Like at
But
least
always expect the yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we also need to realize that sometimes the no can get us somewhere else also.
Mm-hmm.
It just get us somewhere different, but a no can get us somewhere also.
I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
So where would you like to lead the listeners? Where can they find you?
Yeah. So, I mean, our website is tilleyworkforcesolutions.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Instagram.
Perfect. All right. And I will link those in the show notes so that
That's
if
great.
you would like to, first of all, if you are in a company that needs Allison's expertise for the workforce planning, for any of the hiring needs that you do, or from what I hear, that if you are someone that is in that high level leadership position that is looking for to be somewhere else also, then you need to get in touch with her because she is brilliant and a genius at what she does. So yeah, well, thank you for being on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. All right. And for the listeners, I will thank you for listening in today. Please be sure to share this, like, comment, let anybody that you know that could use this, like Allison's expertise, share this with them. And then I will be back on next week with another guest. So we'll see you next week. Have a great one. Thank you for being a part of the Winning in Business podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to rise up to your next level of success, but are worried about increased stress, time for work and yourself and your family, not to mention being exhausted, I'd like to invite you to a complimentary strategy call where I'll show you how you can do it all. I'll help you reclaim time, keep your sanity, handle the chaos with ease, and move to the next level of success that you deserve and desire. I hope you found value in listening today. Please always leave your comments, feedback, or questions. We check them all. I want you to continue winning in business and reach your next level of success. See you next time.